All right. What I'm going to do is, we're here for a press conference, and I'm going to have a prepared statement. I'll be taking questions. Some of the witnesses, all the witnesses are lined up in front of you, sitting down. Behind you are our legal team and investigative team, people from our criminal defense divisions, people from our personal injury division, 2 investigators, and David Janch, a lawyer with our firm also, but he's going to be flipping the exhibits as we go through the statement. Present, I'm just going to let we have family members, son and daughter-in-law here, and then 4 independent witnesses. We have other witnesses as well, but these are the 4 that are going to be here today, and the rest you're actually already familiar with. I'm just going to ask you to simply state your names so that they've got it for the record. Is that what you needed, Louis? And then I'll go into my statement. State your name if you would.
Sean Hill.
And Sean is a witness on the case.
Nicole Butler.
Nicole's a witness to the case as well.
Shannon Ricardio.
Shannon is a witness to the incident in the case.
Freddie Keenan.
R-A-C-A-D-I-O.
Can you say just a little loud for the microphones? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I've got the mics here, so I apologize.
R-A-C-A.
R-A-C-A-D-I-O.
And what's your name also?
Frederick Eamon, co-owner, Rockin' 11.
And Fred is a business owner in there and has familiarity with the parking. And Fred has familiarity with he was not an actual witness to the incident, but it was has personal knowledge as to the parking situation that existed. And our client's car was parked in front of his business, so we'll reference that. And then we have my legal team, our investigative team, and I believe that covers everybody. I'm going to read from a prepared statement, and it might need to be modified slightly because we do understand that just a short while ago, because you all are now aware that the State Attorney's Office has, I've got a statement, a press release from them. After reviewing all the facts in the above case, the State Attorney declined to file criminal charges in the investigation against Daniel Daley, Jr. The State considers the investigation closed. We're, of course, thankful and appreciative of that. We know that they were conducting an investigation, and apparently they've done an appropriate job, and we thank them for that. Good morning. Thank you all for coming. As you're aware, this law firm represents Mr. Dan Daley concerning his neck being broken on September 18th by Officer Lamont of the Orlando Police Department. Present today are members of my law firm who have been working on this case, which includes attorneys from our personal injury division, attorneys from our criminal division, 2 private investigators who worked with us in investigating this case, family members of Mr. Daley, and several independent civilian witnesses who were at the scene and personally observed what occurred on this terrible evening. Allow me to begin by stating that there has been a tremendous outpouring of support from the community concerning Mr. Daley's health and well-being. The Daley family thanks everyone from the bottom of their hearts. Unfortunately, it is still a touch and go for Mr. Daley. These pictures need to be going, please. You can see here, and we'll see it momentarily, some recent pictures that were taken but a few days ago. He lies in a hospital bed in an artificially induced coma. Here are the recent pictures. He has oxygen tubes forced in him, is slightly conscious only in the briefest of intervals, and when he does awake, he's terrified of the condition he wakes up to. He had another surgery a few days ago, as it was determined after an MRI that the ligaments in his neck had been shredded as a result of the injury he sustained. A plate had to be surgically attached to the back of his head. That portion of the injury has been described as having his head sitting atop his shoulders like a bowling ball. Mr. Daley's chances of recovery are still up in the air, and his life continues to be at risk. He had his neck broken at C1. This is often referred to as the hangman's break. And when you are attempting to hang somebody by putting them to death, hang somebody and cause death, it is what breaks in order to kill somebody when you're attempting to kill them by hanging. In light of the fact that Mr. Daley is 84 years old, the injuries he has sustained are catastrophic. But even in the best of situations, and if he survives, the quality of his life will in great likelihood never be good again. We hope and pray. But the reality is that he's in a hospital bed full of tubes fighting for his life. Allow me to state that what we are about to present is not a sweeping indictment against the entire Orlando Police Department, generally, or against Chief Val Demings individually. I have known both personally and professionally hundreds of OPD officers over my career, and I know and respect Chief Demings tremendously. The vast majority of Orlando Police Department officers are great public servants who are caring, brave, compassionate, and who do serve and protect us. Similarly, as to Chief Val Demings, I believe she is a great individual and chief who cares deeply for the people of Orlando. I have tremendous respect for her both personally and professionally, and Orlando is fortunate to have her. Her job is difficult, but she has the opportunity in this instance to shine and to do the right thing, especially after our findings are fully disclosed today. We began our investigation with an open mind. Our personal injury division gets calls literally every day concerning police abuse and misconduct cases. Only in the most rare situations do we accept such cases. In many of these, we evaluate and conclude that law enforcement was doing its job properly, that the injuries sustained were the appropriate consequences of an individual's actions. As such, after our investigation, we turn down cases as a determination is usually made that the officer's actions were justified and appropriate. After an exhaustive investigation, we have concluded in this matter that is absolutely not the case here, and that the actions taken by Officer Lamont of the Orlando Police Department were illegal, unjustified, constituted police brutality, and an excessive and inappropriate use of force. Moreover, it is our opinion that the untrue and incorrect version of events heretofore provided by OPD are intended to and have only served to defame Mr. Lamont, a decorated war veteran who served protecting our country on 3 occasions, once in World War II and twice in tours of Vietnam, and who has an unblemished reputation. Some of his private medical information was obtained in violation of the law. Florida Statute 395-0325, Florida Statute 456-071, and Florida Statute 933.02. This private medical information was apparently obtained by the Orlando Police Department without court order, subpoena, or following HIPAA requirements, and they were disseminated to the public and media showing his blood alcohol information. We believe this is an effort to prejudice a case against him, and there is no legal authority that we have been able to find, and the statutes are in front of you, that would have permitted the obtaining of such information without subpoena or court order and the subsequent dissemination of the information. We can find no justifiable reason why this was done. Additionally, blood alcohol levels are only relevant if one is driving, which Mr. Daley was not. Even in such an instance, there's a legal procedure to acquire medical information in a proper and legal way, which was not done here. Additionally, what makes this situation all the more tragic is that Mr. Daley, our investigation determines, was parked in a legally designated spot, and police intervention was entirely uncalled for in the first place. If the law had been known and followed by Officer Lamont, one doubts that any of this would have ever occurred. One of the many matters that is so disturbing, we'll come back to that. One of the many matters that is so disturbing about this entire event is how Mr. Daley has been portrayed by OPD as some sort of aggressor in this entire situation, and that the question is only whether Officer Lamont's response was too excessive. Let me make it abundantly clear here today. No physical response from Officer Lamont was appropriate, as Mr. Daley was never, let me repeat, never aggressive or violent towards Officer Lamont. We have 4 witnesses present, all civilians, who observed what occurred, and but for the police officer's version, none of them corroborated. So to have a red herring or a clouded issue out there about whether this was an appropriate response to aggressive behavior, our investigation reveals that there was no aggressive behavior whatsoever, and no physical reaction should have been given against Mr. Daley, let alone that which was done. Only the police version supports the theory that we are hearing released from the Orlando Police Department. No independent witnesses corroborate this version. Some of the witnesses have been attacked as being drunk or prejudiced. Let me advise you that one witness is a business and property owner who had nothing to drink. One witness another individual, independent witness, had nothing to drink whatsoever and has a college degree. Another is witness is a professional with a college degree, and another was within inches of the situation the entire time it occurred. For them to be maligned for being good citizens and coming forward is an absolute atrocity. And it's no wonder that so many witnesses refuse to come forward when they see such injustices occur. These 4 or 5 brave individuals have had to endure embarrassment and accusations because they are doing the right thing. Shame on anybody who does that. Our investigation reveals the following. Although it has been announced that an independent investigation is going on by OPD, not one of the witnesses here today, or another one that we have spoken with, have been contacted by an OPD investigator since the night of the injury. How can a complete investigation occur if a full and complete investigation of all sides doesn't take place? This can only lead to the conclusion that a decision has already been made without a complete and thorough investigation. There's been plenty of time to go out to the scene and talk to these people that we have found and talked to. Moreover, not one instance is reported by any of the tenants or any of the customers in this area that OPD has been out to not only interview, but to photograph, measure, or otherwise observe the area since the night Mr. Daley had his neck broken. 2, that the takedown procedure described by OPD that was employed is not what was actually done. We have seen instances released to the media that there was a properly executed takedown procedure where basically one slides to the ground in a smooth, controlled manner. That is not what happened here. In this instance, Mr. Daley was tossed high in the air and came crashing down on his back and head with such violence and force that his neck was snapped and broken. If the technique described by OPD had occurred as they claim, then Mr. Daley's neck would not have been broken. His broken neck is consistent with the independent witness versions and inconsistent with OPD's version. 3, our investigation reveals that OPD has claimed that Mr. Daley touched and grabbed Officer Lamont in an aggressive or violent manner. He did not. He was not upset with Officer Lamont. He was upset with the tow truck driver who had left and who had to pay in order to keep his car from being towed, although it was legally parked. Mr. Daley is extremely hard of hearing and wasn't wearing his hearing aid. Moreover, he is a friend of law enforcement and a fan. He was looking for a sympathetic ear from Officer Lamont. He wasn't under investigation, and no crime had been committed by him, so there was no anger directed by him towards the officer. Moreover, Officer Lamont and Mr. Daley had been talking for about 10 minutes before Mr. Daley was attacked, and there were no indications whatsoever of any aggression by Mr. Daley towards Officer Lamont by a single witness.